Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. She was humiliated during her interview, not knowing that her husband is the CEO. Rachel Evans, 39, stands straight, shoulders slightly pulled back, in front of the imposing glass and steel building of Sterling & Chase, one of New York's most highly regarded consulting firms. The kind of place where billion-dollar decisions are made between iced coffees and PowerPoint slides. The mirrored windows reflect the neighboring skyscrapers, and in their reflections, Rachel sees herself, elegant, dignified, but tense. She takes a deep breath, as if to anchor herself in the moment. She's wearing a perfectly tailored cream suit, simple but refined shoes, and a black leather clutch containing her resume, letters of recommendation, and notes she's reread 1,000 times. Not a strand of her carefully styled hair hangs loose. Her meticulously applied burgundy lipstick is the only hint of color, a discreet signature. Everything about her exudes competence, experience, mastery, and yet, she feels that familiar knot in the pit of her stomach. That mixture of anticipation and mistrust. She knows that for a woman like her, a black woman, every interview is also a tacit test of tolerance. It's never just a question of skills. You have to constantly prove that you deserve to be there. Again and again, she whispers to herself, staring at the revolving door. You have nothing to prove, Rachel. You didn't steal anything. You're not begging for anything. You're offering what you are. She enters. The air conditioning hits her immediately, cold, dry, almost hostile. The lobby is vast, luxurious, impersonal. Black marble on the floor, modern chandeliers suspended several meters from the ceiling, gleaming white walls. Hurried figures in suits move about without a glance. The muffled sound of footsteps on the marble contrasts with the conversations in rapid, professional, almost mechanical English. From the first few meters, she feels the stares. Not those of simple curiosity or distraction. No, they are brief, furtive glances, lingering half a second too long. Stares that wonder what she's doing there, what she's looking for, what she represents. She approaches the reception desk. Behind her, a white woman in her 50s, with a tight bun, taps away at her keyboard without looking up. Rachel waits a second, then two. Finally, she says, in that neutral but polite tone that she masters to perfection. Hello, I have an interview at 10 a.m. with the strategy department. The receptionist doesn't answer immediately. She continues typing, then, without even looking at Rachel, says sharply, "Are you looking for something?" Rachel feels a shiver run down her neck. But she doesn't flinch. She's been through much worse. She smiles slightly. Yes, as I was telling you, I have an interview for a senior position in the strategy department. My name is Rachel Evans. Only then does the receptionist briefly glance up. A quick scan, a silent assessment, as if she's trying to detect an inconsistency between the name on the schedule and the woman standing before her. She types a few keys on her keyboard, pauses, starts again. Her eyebrows raise almost imperceptibly. Rachel Evans, she repeats, as if the name sounds strange or out of place. Rachel nods calmly. Yes, Evans. As in Evans Consulting Group. That was my company, before the merger. Silence. Then, finally, take the elevator to the 28th floor. Turn right as you exit. No welcoming gesture. No polite greeting. Not even a good luck. Just a jerk of the chin toward the elevators. Rachel thanks her anyway, purely out of politeness. Then she walks away without looking back. She wasn't expecting flowers. She's not here to be welcomed with open arms. She's here to see how far the invisible walls go. The elevator stops smoothly at 28th floor. The doors open onto a pristine hallway lined with tinted windows, gray carpets, and carefully trimmed plants, as if each leaf had undergone a separate interview. The silence is striking, almost religious. A sanitized space where everything seems controlled. The light, the smells, the attitudes. Rachel walks up to a small reception desk. A young woman in a beige suit, her smile muted by routine, takes her name without warmth. Sit down. We'll come get you. She sits down in a waiting room with clean lines. A coffee table full of magazines on performance and innovation, as well as internal brochures displaying beaming faces, all white. The walls display photos of victorious teams, posing in front of Excel spreadsheets projected like trophies. None of them reflect her image. None of them reflect she. Time passes. 0.5 minutes. 10, 20, 35. Rachel says nothing. She knows what it's like. She knows this punishing wait, this delay that is never imposed on candidates with the right network, the right face, the right gender. She watches the comings and goings, men in tailored suits, briefcases in hand, who pass by without even noticing her. Assistants who stare surreptitiously, whisper to each other, laugh in their throats. Finally, a door opens. Mrs. Evans? You may come in. She gets up, discreetly adjusts her jacket, and enters the room. The room is large, cold, almost intimidating. Glass wall on one side, minimalist furniture, clinical white light. She takes 3 steps and sees the 3 panel members already seated. No outstretched hands. In the center, Bradley Coleman, the director of the strategy department. A man in his 50s, with impeccable gray hair, a navy suit, and an expensive watch. His smile is fixed, mechanical, like that of a well-oiled automaton. To his left, Lindsay Monroe, HR in her 30s, perfect figure, look off-girl boss from a LinkedIn ad. Hard stare, pursed lips, she scans Rachel like an algorithm looking for flaws. On the right, Mark Jensen, a senior consultant, arrogant 40-something, sitting nonchalantly, arms crossed, expression already weary. Bradley speaks first, his voice honeyed and condescending. Hello, Rachel. Evans, is that right? He deliberately emphasizes the name, cutting it out as if he can hardly believe it. A wry smile accompanies the question, as if he's trying to associate the name with another person. Someone who, in his world, wouldn't look like her. So, you, let's see, worked at Eastbrook Consulting for 10 years? Rachel answers calmly, each word chosen with precision, without excess. Yes, I was responsible for strategic development. I led several major projects in the energy and technology sectors, including transatlantic mergers and structural reorganizations. Lindsay raises an eyebrow sarcastically. Yet you were never promoted to director? No, by choice. I've always preferred to stay on the field, where I can have a real impact. That's what motivates me. Mark intervenes, crossing his arms, looking amused. And you really think you can manage a team here? I'm warning you, the pace is intense. We don't do local consulting here. Rachel keeps her face open. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't smile either. She speaks with the same calm, solid voice that has survived years of crisis meetings and international negotiations. I've done it before. Successfully. I'm not here to learn how to lead a team. I'm here to offer my expertise to an organization that claims to strive for excellence. There's a silence. Bradley chuckles, as if he's heard a bad joke. You know, we're looking for a profile, let's say, connected to our culture. Do you understand what I mean? He tilts his head slightly, a knowing look toward Lindsay, as if he's just said something carefully coded. Rachel doesn't respond. She simply looks into his eyes, unblinking. Bradley turns to Lindsay, mock consultatively. We've seen enough, haven't we? Lindsay nods, as if acknowledging the obvious. Thanks for coming, Rachel. We'll call you back. She finally reaches out her hand. Rachel shakes it briefly. She stands up and picks up her file without rushing. But before she could walk through the door, as she opened it a crack, she heard a burst of laughter behind her. Does she really think she's going to lead a team here? Honestly, diversity has its limits, huh? Another voice snickers. Bradley, probably. Rachel gently closes the door. Without a sound. Without a word. But his hands are shaking slightly. She goes downstairs without saying a word to the receptionist. She leaves the building and stops on the sidewalk. A gust of wind lifts the hem of her coat. She takes a deep breath. Again. What Bradley, Lindsay, and Mark don't know is that Rachel Evans is not just another candidate. She is the wife of James T. Walker, PDG Sterling and Chase, one of the most respected figures in the business world. A man described by the media as an outstanding strategist, a calm but ruthless visionary, a builder of the future. Under his leadership, Sterling and Chase became one of the most influential and admired companies in the country, as much for its results as for its supposed policy of inclusion and meritocracy. But James and Rachel share a pact. Since their meeting on the benches of Harvard Business School, they have always refused shortcuts, facade privileges. They believe in merit, in the strength of work, in competence before name. When Rachel mentioned this company, This position that seemed tailor-made for her. James didn't move a finger. He could have picked up the phone, called 1 or 2 managers, and rolled out the red carpet for her. But he simply replied, "Go ahead. You don't need anyone." He was convinced of it. Until that evening. When Rachel comes home, she doesn't say anything at first. She slowly takes off her shoes, hangs up her coat, clenches her jaw. James, in the kitchen, watches her silently. He immediately senses the tension in her movements. The kind of tension you don't easily verbalize. So, he asks softly, almost in a whisper. Rachel sits. For a moment. Then she speaks. In a calm voice, without anger, but with that bitterness that gnaws at her throat. She tells Bradley's looks, his smirk, Lindsay's frown, Mark's mocking arrogance. She describes the barely veiled mockery, the insidious phrase about corporate culture, and finally, the laughter she heard after she closed the door. James doesn't interrupt her. He doesn't say, "I'm sorry," because he knows that wouldn't be enough. He simply takes her hand, squeezes it gently. Then, calmly, he said, "Tomorrow morning, they will see me." The next day, 9 a.m., an urgent summons was sent at dawn. 30th floor. Main hall. All the department heads are there. In suits. Worried. The news is vague. Mandatory attendance for a CEO statement. Bradley stands there, nervous but still confident. Lindsay taps on her phone, frowning. Mark whispers quietly. The curtains are drawn. The atmosphere is icy. Then the door opens. James T. Walker enter. Dark suit, straight gaze, slow and confident gait. Behind him, his assistant closes the door without a word. A deathly silence falls over the room. All that can be heard is the quiet hum of the air conditioning. James stops in front of the assembly. He doesn't consult any notes. He doesn't need to. He speaks in a calm, deep voice, sharp as a blade of glass. Yesterday, a woman came to this company for an interview. A brilliant woman. One of the best strategists of her generation. 10 years of experience. A clear vision. Concrete, measurable results. Glances are exchanged. Faces freeze. Bradley begins to sit up, worried. James continue, implacable. But instead of being received with the respect due to her skills, she was greeted with condescension, contempt, mockery, and racism. A shocked murmur runs through the room. Bradley turns livid. Lindsay looks down. Mark grits his teeth. James takes a step forward. What you didn't know is that this woman is me wife. Rachel Evans. A shock. The kind of truth that sounds like a silent explosion. Bradley goes pale. Lindsay loses her composure. Mark freezes. James looks each of them in the eye, one by one, without blinking. But what you have done goes far beyond her. You have revealed a truth that I refuse to ignore. Sterling and Chase has a problem. A structural problem. A cultural problem. A human problem. He pauses. Breathes. You thought yourselves above all else. You allowed yourselves to judge based on appearance, gender, skin color. What you did was a betrayal, not only of our charter, but of our collective dignity. Then, coldly, without trembling, Bradley Coleman, you are relieved of your duties with immediate effect. Lindsay Monroe, Mark Jensen, temporary suspension, internal investigation, and complete review of your HR practices. Silence. No one dares to speak. Finally, James finishes. His voice softens, but remains firm. Rachel Evans has decided not to join Sterling and Chase. Not because she isn't worthy, but because she refuses to serve an organization that tramples on dignity. And for that, I admire him even more. He doesn't linger. He turns on his heel and leaves the room. There will be no debate. There will be no public apology. Only one lesson etched in the concrete of this 30th floor. Competence has no face, but it has memory. A few months later, Rachel Evans stands in the bright, modern office of her brand new company. Evans Insight Group. It's a space that reflects him. Open, warm, but also rigorous. On the walls, works of art created by artists from marginalized communities tell stories of resilience and renewal. His firm is not just a consulting firm. It is a laboratory of innovative ideas, a catalyst for change, a sanctuary for talents often neglected or rejected by traditional institutions. She made a bold bet, giving a chance to ambitious Black women, former prisoners seeking dignified reintegration, and passionate self-taught people without prestigious degrees. In its teams, the diverse backgrounds fit together like pieces of a complex but harmonious puzzle. Each brings their own vision, experience, and uniqueness. And the results are there. Clients, ever more numerous, are looking for an inclusive strategy, sustainable, and an ethical innovation, respectful of people and the planet. The irony of this success? These clients include several former partners and even a few major accounts that recently collaborated with Sterling and Chase. Seduced by Rachel's clarity of vision, her unwavering integrity, and, above all, by the tangible results she achieves, they took the plunge. This milestone marks a bittersweet victory, a reminder that true leadership is measured by impact and example. One day, during a conference in a prestigious Manhattan auditorium, Rachel stood at the lectern before an attentive audience. The spotlight illuminated her serene face. After sharing her vision on the importance of diversity and social responsibility in business strategies, she received a question that often came up throughout her career. Why did you turn down the position at Sterling and Chase when it's one of the most prestigious firms on Wall Street? A respectful silence falls. Rachel smiled softly, her eyes shining with deep sincerity. Because I have always believed that a house is not built by sitting at a table where people doubt your presence. I prefer to build a house where everyone has a place, where dignity is not negotiable, and where talents can express themselves freely, without fear or judgment. Joining Sterling and Chase would have meant accepting a compromise I couldn't make. I wanted to be the architect of something new, something true, something just. A murmur of approval ripples through the audience. In the room, several familiar faces from the industry nod their heads, aware that Rachel's courage is opening a new path. Beyond the professional successes, it is a human victory, a fight won against exclusion and latent racism. And Rachel shares this victory with all those she has chosen to take with her on this adventure. Those who, like her, refuse to be invisible.